Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Sally Pinto and I'm from the Yonkers-Newark Neighborhood Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. We launched back in January of 2020 and we're here to serve seniors 60 plus in Northeast Yonkers. We have lots of fun programs and activities, and we also have a lot of resources for you as well. Our programs include meditation chair yoga, body mind fitness, bingo, and any other programs that you might be interested, like arts and gardening. We have our resource specialist, Alexa Smith, who can help you with finding services and activities out there for you, as well as our nurse, Barbara Simone, who can help answer your health-related questions. We're here for you, we're here for our community, and we look forward to seeing you in our programs. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alexa Smith, the resource specialist with the Yonkers-Newark. I'm here to help with application assistance, referrals for home delivered meals, and transportation services will be coming soon. We also offer Zoom activities and Zoom programs. And if you have any other questions or concerns, I'm here to help. Thank you so much and enjoy the program.
Welcome. I'm Barbara Simone, registered nurse. I recently retired from Westchester County's Health Department as a public health nurse. I am now here to try to assist you with any medical or preventive care issues. Enjoy this program, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Sally. And I want to also just echo what Sally has said and what Zia said. We're really pleased to be partnering with the Yonkers Public Library, the Office for the Aging, and the Yonkers-Newark in providing monthly educational programs such as this one. And as some of you probably know who've been on this call before we hear from our featured speaker, it's important to New York Presbyterian leadership to just remind you of the kinds of services we offer and the programs that we have. And so I'd like to just share with you briefly, if I may, some of our programs and share those with you right now. Lawrence Hospital, as we were initially known, has been around since 1909 and became part of New York-Presbyterian in 2014, and an official campus of NYP in 2018. Why is that important? It's important because it means additional resources are now available in Bronxville and the surrounding communities that you can take advantage of. And that means doctors, surgeons, specialists, researchers, clinical trials. There are lots of services available to you now that weren't before. And so we're very proud of that. We have over 1,700 employees. We see more than 30,000 people in our emergency room, and we're continually improving our campus. As you can see from the photo on the right, that's a new image of our operating rooms. One of the many operating rooms that we have at the hospital that is state of the art. And you can see some of the imagery and equipment in the room. You know, in addition to that, we recently completed our main parking garage, plaza, and entrance, and we added a new valet office and waiting area for patients. So there's a lot of work that's being done. And starting in the new year, we're actually going to have a new electronic medical record system so that it's easier for our doctors to communicate with other clinicians that may be providing care. And so all of that information is in one record. So that will launch in January. We want to remind everyone that it's important to get the care you need. And so our offices are open. We've instituted a number of safety protocols to ensure your safety and that of our staff. So don't delay care. If you need to see a doctor, you need to come in. We're doing all we can to ensure your safety in this pandemic. New York-Presbyterian Lawrence Hospital is committed to caring for the community. We do a number of programs. These are just a few of them: physician lectures, screening events, support groups like our aphasia support group that helps people who've had strokes. We are launching a sleep apnea support group in the coming year. And we also provide charity care. Well, what does that mean? Again, we don't want anyone to delay care. So if you need it, we want you to get it. If you have some financial constraints, we have a department that can address those. There's more information on our website, and you'll see it's in multiple languages. So we just want to remind people the importance of getting care and not allowing a financial, issue to you and your family from preventing you to get the care you need. Today's speaker is Katie Campbell, and I want to tell you a little bit about Katie. She specializes in weight and diabetes management. As a certified nutritionist and certified diabetes educator with NewYork-Presbyterian Medical Group Westchester, Katie counsels patients at various medical group physician practice offices located in Bronxville, Mount Vernon, and Scarsdale. Katie provides individualized nutrition plans and counseling for cardiovascular disease, cancer, gastrointestinal disorders, kidney disease, pediatrics, and overall wellness. Katie encourages her patients to live a healthier lifestyle through good nutrition and by reaching their personal health goals. Katie completed her master's degree in nutrition at Westchester University in Pennsylvania and is certified by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics in adult weight management. So without further ado, please welcome Katie Campbell.
Hi, thank you, Elisa, and thank you for having me today. It's nice to meet you all virtually. I figured it'd be important to do a presentation about healthy eating during the holidays. We are in the thick of the holiday season, and I figured we could go through some strategies, simple tips and tricks on just making better food choices during this time of the year, and hopefully prevent that unnecessary weight gain. So does this look familiar to everyone? I know it does to me. Maybe not now with COVID and having smaller gatherings, but typically this is what the table looks like, right? We have lots of entrees, sides, appetizers, high calorie casseroles, cheese plates, dips, pies, cookies, cakes, and even your beverages, maybe some high calorie or alcoholic beverages as well. So I know it's a tough time to try and control what you're eating and lose weight. So we're going to go through some of those strategies. So the holidays are here, and statistics show that on average, Americans do gain about 1 to 2 pounds during the holiday season. And I know that doesn't really sound like much, but the research shows that when we gain that weight, we typically don't take it off, and it does accumulate from year to year. And if you're someone who already needs to lose weight, maybe you're overweight or obese, you might even gain more. So maybe upwards of 5 to 10 pounds, the research shows as well. Typical reasons for gaining this weight, obviously a lot of the foods are very high calorie that we're choosing during this time of the year. We're going to parties, or we're having large gatherings where we're eating these high calorie foods. And we're also having increased sedentary behaviors. It's cold outside, and now with that additional layer of COVID, we're inside even more. We're not getting to gyms, we can't go out and do the things that maybe we were doing before, which is all kind of leading to this excess weight. So I encourage you to be realistic about your goals during this time. I don't think it's realistic to say you want to lose 20, 30 pounds during this time of the year. I always say maintain, don't gain. So if you can make it through from Thanksgiving to the new year without gaining a single pound, I consider that a win and a positive thing, so just be realistic. And also remember that one day of overeating is not the issue. So some people get really hard and down on themselves when they overeat, like on Thanksgiving, let's say. But that's not going to break the bank. That's not going to make you gain a ton of weight. It's when you continue that momentum on the upcoming day or the days after that cause the issue. So it's that consistency of overeating, whether it be on leftovers or pies or cakes or whatever you have left over in the house, that tends to actually be the issue. So my number one tip is don't skip meals. I know a lot of people think, well, I just won't eat all day and then I'll go and eat this very large meal. And I encourage you not to do that. The research really shows that if you go about your normal routine, have breakfast, have a snack, maybe even have lunch, if you're going to a dinner later on, you're less likely to actually overeat at that meal versus starving yourself and not eating anything all day long. So get up, have a breakfast, have a snack, and that will help you hopefully from overeating later on. I also encourage you to choose high fiber foods because they make you feel more full and satisfied. So plant-based sources tend to have the most fiber: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes are our fibrous foods, and tend to be lower in calories. Like vegetables, for example, you can eat a very large volume of them. They're going to make you feel full, satisfied, and they're lower in calories as well. So definitely fill up on the fiber before you go too. Next slide, Elisa. So the next thing would be controlling your portions. Honestly, I think this is the biggest thing to do, is to work on your portions. And this is something that you not only want to do during the holiday season, but every day. So these are tips you can take with you all the time. So choose a smaller plate. That's what I tell my patients when you're eating at home. Choose a tinier plate. It kind of tricks your mind and you feel like you're eating more. Or fill up first on the lower calorie foods like your vegetables, your salad. Eat that first and then go back for the entrees. Then you want to control your portions of your higher calorie, higher fat foods. So during this time of the year, there's lots of creamy, cheesy dips or entrees like mac and cheese or lasagna. So limit your portions of those foods. Gravies and other casseroles, and then obviously like fried foods and pastries and pies. I know it's unrealistic to say to avoid these foods, and I don't necessarily even recommend that. I want you to, have the foods that you enjoy or foods that are traditional to you, but the ones that might be a little high calorie, maybe have a smaller portion of those. So like for your desserts, for example, have your dessert that you love. If you love pumpkin pie, have that pumpkin pie, just have a smaller portion of it. Or, if one of your relatives makes amazing cookies, maybe have 2 instead of 4. Just always thinking about portion and just having maybe a little bit less than you normally would. Next slide, Elisa. Thank you. So healthier choices would be obviously fruits and vegetables. So all of these foods that I'm going to talk about are healthier choices for every day, not only the holiday season, but just reinforcing it for the holidays. You can't go wrong with fruits and vegetables, whether they're fresh, frozen, even canned, if they're canned in their own juice or water, or you can even rinse them really well when you take them out of the can. But you can't go wrong, especially with vegetables. They're so low in calorie. Like I said before, you can eat a large volume of them for very little calories. Fruit's great for you. I hear all the time, well, fruit has a lot of sugar. I shouldn't be eating a lot of fruit. I'd rather you eat fruit than an Oreo. I'd rather you eat fruit than a Snickers bar. So please choose fruit, but also just with anything, have it in moderation, especially if you're a diabetic, let's say. You wouldn't want to sit down and eat an entire carton of strawberries. You always want to watch portions, but remember, fruit is great for you. Whole grains. So if you can, always choose whole wheat or whole grain products. So whether that's your whole wheat bread, brown rice, whole wheat pasta, oatmeal, bran cereal, anything with a lot of fiber. Beans and legumes and nuts and seeds as well also provide you with a lot of fiber. And they're also a good plant-based protein source. So when you're eating these, you're going to get protein as well. Healthy protein sources such as fish, poultry, make sure you're always removing the skin and never fried. And then you can even incorporate plant-based alternatives as well, meaning tofu, tempeh, veggie burgers. You don't always have to just do meat either. You can incorporate meatless options. If you're having dairy, choose low fat or fat-free, or even dairy alternatives like unsweetened almond milk or soy milk is fine. And then healthier fat sources. So we want to strive to choose unsaturated fat sources that would come from like olive oil or canola oil, for example, or avocado. And then we want to limit high sodium, high processed foods. So high sodium meaning like canned soup, packaged foods, like whether they come from the freezer, or like packaged rice that has like added salt into it, just making sure you're looking at your labels, or highly processed snacks like Oreos, like Doritos or Cheetos or things of that nature too. We want to limit saturated fat. So unsaturated fat is our healthy fat. Saturated fat is our unhealthy fat. That mainly comes in the form of full fat dairy. So like heavy cream, whole milk, ice cream, butter, or like your fatty meat products. So you also want to limit fatty meat and processed meats, which would include hot dogs, bacon, sausage, salami, pastrami, anything that falls into that category as well. And then sweets and added sugars. And then to avoid completely, you should never ever consume trans fats. If you look at your ingredient label, it will usually say partially hydrogenated oil. If you see that in the ingredients at all, then you know there is trans fats in that product, and you do want to avoid that completely if you can. So going back to portion, you can see my graphic of the plate. This is how I would love for you to assemble your plate. So half of the plate would be some kind of vegetable, whether it's raw or cooked. And then the other half would be divided into quarters. So you could have your little bit of starch. So that's showing you rice, but you could do pasta or potatoes. And then your other quarter is your protein. So that's grilled chicken. And you can see the portion there is pretty small. And then the good fats, you can also add like avocado or maybe a little bit of olive oil, or nuts would be included in the good fat category. So not only for the holidays would you want to make your plate up like this, you can always practice this day to day, like with your dinner time, trying to structure it where the majority of your plate is a salad or some kind of vegetable. And then on the right side, I just wanted to put a little graphic about using your hand. So if you're out to eat or you're at a party, you can kind of use the palm of your hand. It's not terribly accurate, but at least you can kind of get the general sense, get an idea of how much you can have. So like protein, for example, whether that's your meat, fish, chicken, usually about the size of the palm of a woman's hand is appropriate for a woman. And then for men, you could do 2 palms. I know we all have different size palms, but at least you can get a general understanding of that. Fruits, grains like rice or pasta, usually you want to do about the palm of your hand cupped for a woman, and then 2 for a man. And then starches, you would do like your fist, you can kind of eyeball that. Again, man would be 2. And then your fats, like let's say you're putting peanut butter on something, or you're putting avocado on some bread. General rule of thumb is using your thumb. So usually like this much peanut butter could go on a slice of bread. And then for men, you could do 2. So when you're going to parties or large meals, again, just some tips. First and foremost, I want you to eat before you go if you can. So back to that, not starving yourself and skipping meals, but trying to have some sort of structured meal or snack before you go. Another thing you can do is also ask the host what's going to be served if you can, or if you know what's going to be served, you can ask them ahead of time just so you have you know, a general understanding of what's going to be there before you go. You can kind of plan ahead. And I actually tell my patients to do this when they're going out to eat. You know, look over the menu before you go if you have access to it. Maybe plan out what you're going to eat before you go there. If you have a plan of attack, you're more likely not to stray from it when you get there. So maybe just ask them what's going to be served. If you taste something and you don't like it, it's okay to leave it on your plate. It's okay to say no if you're offered something that you don't want. Those are just excess calories that you'll consume that weren't even necessary and you didn't even really like the food. So feel free to just leave it if you can. Again, choose vegetables first. I know this is a reoccurring theme. Fill up as many veggies as you can before you go onto your entree. And don't rush eating. This is a huge thing. I know most of us eat pretty quickly, and it takes our stomach to signal to our brain about 20 minutes to tell our brain that we're actually full. So if we're eating very fast, we're going to go back for seconds and not even realize how full we actually are. So take your time, eat slowly, savor your bite, interact with family or friends, and then if you actually are hungry, you can go back for seconds. The next thing is avoiding or decreasing the amount of chips or crackers or dips you might have beforehand. So I know a lot of times, like in my family, my mom will put out a bunch of appetizers and dips made with mayonnaise or cream cheese, a lot of high calorie things, and we're munching on that before we even go to our entree. So you could consume upwards of 1,000 calories before you even go to eat. So maybe put a little dollop on your plate, portion it out, and walk away and take that away so you're not standing in front of it and kind of grazing and munching, or, you know, make your own healthy dip so you know there's a healthier option there for you. And again, try and move away from the area so you're not just standing there and grazing. And remember to stay hydrated. We forget sometimes, especially in the winter time, to be hydrated and drink a lot of water. Sometimes we mistaken being hungry for thirsty. So make sure that you are hydrated and you are drinking the fluids that you need to throughout this time as well. If you're hosting the dinner, try and have something healthy there. You know, have like your typical traditional foods that you enjoy having, but maybe also have a fruit platter or have grilled vegetables. Just something there that's healthy for everybody to choose. I know most people are trying to make better choices now, so at least have that option there for you and for them to make during the meal. And then when you're preparing things, try and prepare them the best way you can, whether it's in the oven, barbecuing, or using the grill if you have access to one, or on the stovetop instead of frying or deep frying a food. When you're making it, try your best not to continuously sample the food. I know it's good to taste it sometimes just to kind of know that it tastes good before you're serving it, but don't get carried away with that. I know that's something that we can do. You, again, use smaller plates for everyone, put out smaller plates, and then clear the table too. I know myself, if something's sitting there in front of me, I'm always going to pick at it and eat it as long as it's still there. So clear the table, put the unused food away so everyone stops the grazing. And then if you're a guest at somebody's home, serve yourself. I know sometimes the guests like to make the plate for you, but if you can serve yourself, you can control which foods you're choosing and how much, and you can control your portion. And then even offer, you know, bring your own healthy dish for everyone to try and have, so you know there's at least a healthy option there for everybody as well. Okay, so when we're preparing foods, I'm going to go through mindful modifications we can make in the recipe. So number one, instead of using regular full fat cheese, you can choose a reduced fat or part skim cheese. Or if the recipe calls for, like, let's say 2 cups of cheese, maybe only using 1 cup. So just reducing the amount of cheese that's in the item. Same for milk. If it calls for whole milk or cream, use either fat-free, 1%, or again, a dairy alternative like the unsweetened almond milk or soy milk or oat milk as well. Most of the dairy-free milks are lower in calories, lower in sugar, and lower in fat. And instead of cream, again, you could even use a fat-free evaporated milk as well. For dips, try a reduced fat or fat-free mayo, or even veganase, which is the vegan version of mayo that doesn't have eggs in it. It's a little bit less in fat. Or you could even swap out sour cream for non-fat plain yogurt. Or if you're using cream cheese, you could even do a reduced fat cream cheese as well. Instead of butter, so if you're sauteing something, you could use olive oil or canola oil, or you can even try a plant-based liquid spread. I really like Earth Balance or Smart Balance. They're made with olive oil instead of that milk, the butterfat milk. Or when you're cooking, you can even use the non-stick cooking spray, which doesn't add any calories. If a recipe calls for oil, again, you could use half the amount of oil, or at least reduce the amount of oil that's recommended in the recipe. Just so you know, a tablespoon of oil, no matter what kind of oil it is usually about 100 calories and 14 grams of fat. So that's a lot. So by reducing even half the amount, you're going to reduce a ton of calories in a recipe. And then if you're baking something like muffins, brownies, cakes, you can substitute fat with applesauce, mashed bananas, or prunes. And I know there's a ton of great recipes out there, like with muffins made with applesauce or brownies made with applesauce, that are wonderful, and you cut back on the fat. Sugar. So instead of regular sugar, you could use a low-calorie sugar substitute like Splenda or stevia or Truvia, or you could do half and half, where you do half regular sugar and half low-calorie substitute. If a recipe calls for eggs, you could do, so the equivalent of 1 egg is 2 egg whites, or a 1/4 cup of the egg beater liquid substitute. You could use that instead. Flour. So if you are willing to, I would try either like a whole wheat flour or a ground flax meal flour, or you could cut it in half and do half white flour and half whole wheat flour, just to add a little bit more fiber to the item. Instead of chocolate chips or candy, you could use dried fruit. So again, you get fiber from that as opposed to candy. That's really just sugar. And then for flavoring, you could use extracts. So a little goes a long way here. A little bit of vanilla, a little bit of almond or peppermint extract can bring nice flavor to a recipe, as opposed to just dumping a bunch of sugar into the product. If you can, always choose whole grain instead of white. So brown rice, whole wheat pasta, whole grain bread. I know some people don't like brown rice or whole wheat pasta. It's not the end of the world. Just so you know, a cup of white rice versus a cup of brown rice are the same amount of calories, the same amount of carbohydrates. The only difference is about 1 gram or 2 of fiber. That's a huge misconception. Everybody thinks that brown rice is lower in carbs, lower in calories. It's not true. So if you can't stand it, it's not the end of the world. You can have your white rice. Ultimately, it comes down to portion control of these items. And then if you can do the brown rice, like I said, you will get like 1 gram or 2 more of fiber. Avoid high calorie sauces and fried foods, obviously, and compare your labels. So if you're a diabetic and you want to monitor your sugar, or you want to monitor your carbohydrate intake, compare your labels and look at your carbohydrate line on your product. See which one is lower. If you have high blood pressure and you want to monitor your sodium intake, then obviously you would compare your labels and your sodium content of those foods. So really, really look at your labels. It's so important to monitor them. And then lastly, for seasoning, always use spices, fresh herbs or citrus or garlic or onion for flavoring, or even the no salt seasoning line, Mrs. Dash, instead of just adding excessive salt or sugar into something. All right, beverages. So during this time of the year, whether it's an alcoholic beverage or a non-alcoholic beverage, you can consume a lot of calories through liquids. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather eat my calories than drink my calories. So I just want to go through this with you and kind of show you how many calories can be in some of these things. So if you're currently not an alcohol drinker, great, you don't need to start. If you are an alcohol drinker, please have it in moderation. So moderation means no more than 2 beverages for a man and no more than 1 beverage for a woman. And a serving equates to either a 12-ounce beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1 ounce of liquor. So if you have 10 ounces of wine, if you have a very large wine glass and you're a heavy pourer, that's 2 servings, not 1. So be cautious of the actual serving. And then avoid high calorie mixers, syrups, and soda. So if you can, choose like tonic water or seltzer or even diet soda instead of regular, because the more mixers you add into a mixed drink, the more calories you're adding, the more sugar you're adding. Alcohol already has calories, and when you're adding mixers in with it, you're just adding more calories and sugar on top of that. And then alcohol lowers our inhibitions. So a lot of times when we're drinking, we eat more or we eat with it. So that's just even more calories on top of it. So be cautious of your alcohol intake, please. And then holiday beverages, the big one I know is eggnog. A glass of eggnog could be anywhere from 400 to 500 calories, just 1 glass. So if you don't drink it or you're willing to give it up, I would recommend doing that. But if it's something you have 1 time a year, it's a tradition, no big deal. Maybe pass on the whipped cream on top, or cut the alcohol out of it, or even cut it with like a fat-free milk or a milk alternative, just to kind of dilute it and cut the calories down. Same with hot chocolate. Hot chocolate can be very high in calories or sugar, depending how it's made. So either use like a low-fat, non-fat milk, and don't add all those toppings, like avoid marshmallows, avoid whipped cream, avoid shaved chocolate and stuff like that on top too. And then just in general, and I recommend this every day, please avoid soda, avoid juice, avoid all sweetened teas and drinks, and avoid power drinks like Gatorade, Powerade. They have so much sugar in them. You don't need them. They don't give you any nutrition. All they are doing is giving you calories and sugar. So the best thing you can do for yourself is water. Drink water. If you're not that big of a fan of water, add fruit or something into it to give it more flavor, or do seltzer, or you could do like Crystal Light or a diet drink instead, but just have those in moderation. Water is the best thing. Okay, so tips for staying active. I know it's so hard to be active right now. This is something that I'm hearing from my patients all the time. We're stuck indoors. We don't want to go to the gym because we're scared. It's cold outside. So we need to plan ahead and try and come up with a routine. So if you have access to any gym equipment in your home, whether it's a treadmill, a bike, an elliptical, please use them. Go out for a walk if you're able to. If you can get on YouTube, YouTube has great workout videos you can do right in your home, or if you have DVDs or anything like that at home, just take advantage of that. Try and come up with a set schedule and stick with it. The more consistent you are, the more likely you are to continue to do it, and you'll feel better. If you don't have the time to do a long workout, like you don't have an hour in your day, you can do a more high intensity workout. It's something called a HIIT workout. You could do that for 10 to 20 minutes. It's going to burn a lot of calories at one time, and then you don't really need to do a longer workout. Take advantage of this season. I know maybe this year, this isn't necessarily the case, but most years there's fun 5K or 10K walks and runs out there, like turkey trots or jingle bell runs that we have access to. You can do a fun walk with your family or a run. So I encourage you to also partake in them if you can in the upcoming years. And on the days that you're going to overindulge, you're going to have a huge meal, that would be the day that you definitely want to put in some exercise. So don't avoid exercise on those days. Like Thanksgiving Day, you probably want to get up that morning, you want to go for a walk or a jog or whatever you can do just to start the day off right and burn a little bit of calories before you go into that meal. Or you can work out afterwards. So instead of heading straight to the couch, maybe doing something with your family, going for a walk after you eat, walking the dog. dancing, doing fun interactive games, anything you can do besides just sitting on the couch, you know, be creative and have fun together. So phone applications, there are a ton of wonderful applications you can download on your phone in your app store that you can use every day, not only the holiday season. My favorite ones are MyFitnessPal and Lose It. What they are calorie tracking apps. So basically you log all the food that you're eating into the app and it will tally the calories for you. I think it's just a great way to hold yourself accountable and track what you're eating day to day. Even if you're eating naughty foods, let's say, you know, put them in there, at least monitor what you're doing. And even if you're going over your daily calorie goal, that's okay. You're at least kind of keeping track of what you're putting into your body. And there's not only calorie trackers, there's something called Carb Manager if you're watching your carbs, especially for diabetics. That's a great app that monitors your carbs. There's the app Noom. You might have seen commercials for it. It's all about like behavioral modifications as well. And I think there's even a feature where you can actually talk to people and they help keep you motivated for lifestyle changes. There's apps where you can take pictures of your food and it will monitor how, or it will tally and estimate how many calories you're eating at that meal. So if you have a smartphone and you feel comfortable, I encourage you to download any of these apps and try to use them. They are very, very helpful. The most important thing, like I said at the beginning, be realistic about your goals. So if you go overboard, please do not beat yourself up. It's not the end of the world, you know, just brush it off, maybe exercise a little bit more the next day or get back on track the next day. One day of overeating is not going to hurt you. So I know a lot of people get down on themselves when they overeat or are hard on themselves. Please do not do that. The most important thing with weight loss and eating healthy is just being positive as well. So that way you can stay consistent with your new lifestyle change. So I added some recipes. If you obviously, you know, if you can't jot them down fast enough, I made a PDF and I can email them to you. You can always email me after the presentation and I can send them to you. I just wanted to put them up here so you could see how you can just make some tweaks in a recipe. So for example, we have some French toast and you can see in the recipe that they're using whole wheat bread. They're using egg whites instead of regular eggs. They're using skim milk instead of regular milk, and then vanilla and cinnamon for seasoning. And then with the sugar and the maple syrup, you could even cut back on the amount that you're using. So you wouldn't even have to use that full amount. Or if you don't like so many raisins or craisins, I mean, you can cut all of that out altogether. But just kind of showing you how you can switch out certain products just to cut a little bit more calories and a little bit of fat in the item. And then down at the bottom, there's a nutrient analysis. So it'll tell you how many calories per serving you're eating, and it tells you how to make everything as well. Brussels sprouts hash. I thought this was just fun. I love Brussels sprouts. I know it's one of those things people either hate it or they love it. But this would be a great way to get fiber on your plate. I know I've been talking about fiber a lot because it's so important. It helps keep you full and satisfied. So Brussels sprouts are one of the highest in fiber. So if you can add that as a side dish, if you're having a large meal, it helps so much with making you feel full and satisfied. And then you're getting your veggie servings in. So just adding a little flavor to it, like a little balsamic vinegar with some salt, maybe some shallots, a little bit of olive oil, just to give them flavor as well. And it's very low in calories. And then lastly, just some cookies. So these cookies have almonds, oats, wheat germ, whole wheat pastry flour, maple syrup, oil, salt, cinnamon, and fruit preserves. And basically you just put them all into a food processor, blend it and form a cookie, and then put them in the oven. I know there's tons of recipes out there like this, where you just pick like a nut and some fruit like dates or raisins, and you food process them, and it makes them into like these little sticky balls, like little power balls that you can just eat quick on the go. They make a great snack. And you can see one cookie is 137 calories. It's really not that much. And if you're looking for any more recipes, you can just go onto Google and just type in healthy holiday recipes. There's so many resources out there of healthy, of ways to change some of your main dishes at your holiday season.
Hi, everyone. This is Z from Yonkers Public Library. Thanks so much to Sally Pinto and Alexis and Barbara from Newark. Thank you to our community partners, WJCS, the City of Yonkers Office for the Aging, Westchester County Legislator Ruth Walter, Friends of Crestwood Library, and Yonkers Public Library for making this phenomenal partnership. And we thank each and every one of you for being part of our wellness community. Be well, stay well.